Under the starry sky of Canaan, where the winds whisper between the leaves, and the fields sleep in silence, there was a young man with a pure heart that looked at the stars as if he sought in them the voice of God. His name was Joseph. Imagine this boy now, wrapped in a tunic of bright colors, walking slowly through the quiet pastures at dusk. Your steps are light, your eyes shine with the dreams the Lord reveals to you. There is a soft breeze in the air, the smell of distant olive trees, and the feeling that God is very close. But Joseph's journey would not be simple. God chose him, but also proved him. He would face dark wells, bitter betrayals, and unfair arrests. Still, it never failed to trust, because even when everything seemed lost, Joseph knew God would never abandon him. This is the story of a faithful heart, of a man-shaped man, guided by grace, and raised to fulfill an eternal purpose. Now, take a deep breath, give your thoughts to God, and allow your peace to guide your dreams. Imagine the dawn in Canaan. The sky slowly exchanges its dark cloak for shades of orange and gold, while the first rays of the sun touch the silent fields. There is a soft freshness in the air. Dew rests on the leaves, and the sheep still rest, wrapped in morning peace. Among them, he walks a young man with serene and quiet steps. Your name is Joseph. Joseph was the penultimate son of Jacob, God's chosen patriarch to carry the promise made to Abraham. His mother Rachel had long been sterile, and Joseph's birth was seen as a miracle, a response from God to the cry of heart. Therefore, since I was a child, Joseph carried not only the love of the Father, but also a sacred sense of purpose. Jacob, already elderly, saw in Jose something different. Perhaps it was the way he watched the sky reverently, or the way people treated kindly, even the brothers who mocked him. Perhaps it was that glow in the eyes when I spoke of God. In any case, Jacob loved him deeply, and to demonstrate this love, Joseph presented with a colorful tunic, with fine linen, unlike any other in the lands of Canaan. This beautiful and vibrant tunic became a symbol of something bigger. It was more than a gift. It was preferably a mark, an insignia of love. And in the eyes of Joseph's older brothers, that was like a thorn. Each color of the tunic seemed to scream a reminder that his father loved them less. And over the days, this envy turned into bitterness. But Joseph was innocent in his heart. He did not know the grudge that grew around him. It was just a dreamer. One night God spoke to him in dreams. Jose via compost with wheat beams. His bundle rose, and those of his brothers bent before him. On another night, the sky opened in vision, and the sun, the moon, and 11 stars leaned before it. They were mysterious images, but full of meaning. With sincerity and simplicity, Joseph told his dreams to his family. He did not seek a boast. He just wanted to share what God had shown him. But their brothers did not receive their words with joy. On the contrary, his words sounded like affront. "Will you reign over us?" they said, with mockery in his eyes and hardness in his heart. Even Jacob, though he loved Jose, was confused by those visions. Still, Joseph did not go back. His heart was pure. He kept serving his father, helping in the fields, taking care of the herds. And even in the face of the coldness of the brothers, he respected them. He was young, but there was a mature faith in him, a quiet confidence that did not need applause to flourish. One morning, Jacob asked Jose to meet the brothers, who were feeding the flocks in Shechem. It was a long trip, but Jose obeyed without hesitation. He left alone, crossing the valleys and hills with decided steps and the willing heart. As he walked, the wind blew smoothly between the palm trees. The sky seemed clean, and the sound of birds was like a discreet song of blessing. He did not know what awaited him, but in his mind, there was only the desire to fulfill his father's will. He still didn't know that that walk would lead him to one of the most decisive moments of his life. When the brothers saw him from afar, his hearts were filled with anger. "Here comes the dreamer," they said, and they started plotting. "Let's kill you, and we'll see what will be of your dreams." But one of the brothers, Reuben, with a slightly softer heart, tried to spare him. "Let's not take your life," he said. and suggested that they launch it in an empty well. So they did. When Joseph arrived, with the gleaming tunic under the sun, he was surprised. The brothers grabbed him, pulled his tunic violently, and threw him into the dry well. There, among the cold stones, the young dreamer stared at the first great darkness of his life. There was no water. There was no way out, just silence and pain. But even in that place, God was with him. While Joseph took a deep breath, trying to understand what happened, above him the brothers ate bread, and soon they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites, traders who were heading for Egypt. And so they made an even more cruel decision. They sold Joseph as a slave, 20 silver coins. It was the price paid by a son of Israel. Tied, confused, wounded in body and soul, Joseph was taken by the hot sand of the desert towards the unknown. He didn't know where he was going. I didn't know if I would see the Father again. But still, it didn't matter. His eyes, though teary, still sought the sky. Jacob received the tunic, stained with animal blood, and we cried bitterly, thinking that the son was dead. I will go down the grave in mourning by my son, he said, inconsolable. Meanwhile, Joseph went to a strange land, to a language he did not know, for a people who did not expect him. But there was something no one saw. God went with him. In the desert sands, in the eyes of the camel, the sound of the bells that hung from the necks of the animals, there was a mystery forming. The sky continued to write its story, and even if the well was deep, even if Egypt was distant, God's purpose was even deeper. Sometimes the beginning of the journey seems to abandon, but actually, it's preparation. The desert sun burned the horizon when Joseph's feet first touched Egypt's lands. It was a land unlike anything I had ever seen. High monuments, such as mountains, stone-carved columns, and men who spoke a strange tongue with white linen clothes and gold sandals. Everything was new. Everything was foreign. Everything was scary. But in his heart, Joseph carried something that neither the merchants nor the Egyptians could see. He carried faith, a firm, serene faith that told him that God had not forgotten him. Even when no one spoke his tongue, even when his arms were stuck with ropes, he knew God was with him. Soon Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an important Egyptian, captain of the guard of Pharaoh. And there, in the house of Potiphar, the Hebrew boy became a servant. It was no longer the beloved son, nor the dreamer of colorful tunic. Now it was just another slave among many others. But different from the others, Joseph served with the heart. With each task given to him, he was dedicated with humility. He took care of the barns with zeal, cleaned the courtyards carefully, organized the groceries wisely, and Potiphar began to realize everything Joseph played thrived. It was as if an invisible blessing accompanied him, and in fact, that was right. The word says, "The Lord was with Joseph, and all that he did, the Lord prospered in his hands." Genesis, chapter 39. Potiphar entrusted so much in Joseph that he put him as responsible for his entire home. Nothing was done without his consent, and even as a slave, Joseph began walking toward honor. But God's ways are not always straight to human eyes. Many times they descend before climbing. Often trials come before the promises. Potiphar's wife looked at Joseph with unclean eyes. She wanted him, but he rejected her firmly. "How could I sin against God and against my Lord?" he said with fear and dignity. He was young, strong, but his feet were firm in the rock of faith. Hosea would rather lose everything, to lose his communion with the Lord. But one day, just in the house, she grabbed him through the tunic. Joseph fled, leaving his clothes behind, and with that came the accusation. A cruel lie that put him under suspicion. Potiphar, although suspicious, sent Joseph to prison. Once again, he who was innocent was thrown into darkness. And there, among the cold walls of an Egyptian cell, Joseph felt the weight of injustice. He had done everything right, served with faithfulness, rejected sin, and yet was betrayed again. But what is surprising in this story is what Joseph didn't do. He did not curse. He didn't blaspheme. he didn't give up. In prison, he served again. He took care of others again. And again, God was with him. The jailer watched him and saw that there was something different in that young man. It was as if God's own peace walked beside him. Joseph was responsible for the other prisoners. Yes, even imprisoned, God made him prosper. What seemed to be the end was, in fact, another step. One day 2 important servants of Pharaoh were released in prison, the copiero and the baker, and both, the same night, had strange dreams. In the morning, they were disturbed, and Joseph, with the same sensitivity as usual, asked with compassion, "Why are they sad today?" They told their dreams, and Joseph, with calm and faith, replied, "Do interpretations not belong to God? Tell me, please." And he heard, interpreted, and dreams were fulfilled exactly as he had said. The cope was restored to office, the baker executed. Before the cope came out of prison, Joseph asked him, "Remember me when you are facing Pharaoh. Tell me that I leave this place." But the copiero, once free, forgot Joseph. And so, 2 years have passed. 2 years of silence. 2 years of waiting. 2 years in which Joseph could have lost hope, but it didn't lose. Because true faith does not depend on immediate rewards. She trusts. Even in the dark. Imagine Joseph now, on any night in prison. He lies on the cold floor, his head leaning against a straw burden. The sound of the night is a deep silence, interrupted only by the distant crickets. And yet, he prays, in a low voice, whispering promises, remembering the dreams of youth, and saying, "Lord, I'm still here, and I still believe." Perhaps you are also in a personal prison, a time of waiting, oblivion, of silence of God. But no, God, don't forget anyone, even when men forget, even when everything seems stagnant. God continues to act behind the scenes of life. What seemed delay, it was actually preparation. What seemed abandonment, it was teaching. What seemed injustice, it was the way to something bigger. Joseph did not see, but the sky was about to move. Pharaoh would have a dream that no wise from Egypt could decipher. And when that moment came, the one that was sold, betrayed, slandered, and forgotten, would be remembered, because God never forgets his own, and his dreams always meet. 2 years had passed since the cope was released. Time followed its course, and Joseph was still in the silence of the prison. Each morning, the same cold floor, the same shy light crossing the stone bars, the same longing for the open sky of Canaan. But Joseph's heart, this has not become a stone. He was still waiting, still prayed, still trusted. Then came the day when God's plans came out of the invisible to the visible. Pharaoh had a dream, not just one, but 2. He dreamed of 7 fat cows leaving the Nile River, and soon after, 7 lean cows that devoured the fat. Then 7 full, beautiful ears appeared, but then dried ears came that consumed the former. At awakening, Pharaoh was restless. He summoned all the wizards and sages of Egypt, but none of them managed to interpret what those dreams wanted to say. No answer satisfied your spirit. It was then that, amid the confusion of the palace, the cope remembered. Like a flash of memory, his heart squeezed. He said, "Today, I remember my faults. When Pharaoh was outraged against me and the baker, we were thrown into prison. There was a young Hebrew. We told our dreams to him, and it all happened according to his interpretation." Pharaoh immediately had Joseph sought. Imagine that moment now. Joseph is in prison, as in so many other mornings. The sound of the steps in the corridor approaches. The door opens with a crash. The guard, in a firm voice, announces, "Pharaoh wants to see him." Joseph's heart pulsa. He gets up. Wash your face. Scrape the beard. Change your robes. Breathe deep. He doesn't know, but this is the last time he steps in that prison. Suffering is coming to an end. The promise is about to flourish. Joseph is taken before Pharaoh. The throne is high. The guards are armed. The nobles of Egypt observe in silence. The Hebrew bends, humble. Pharaoh sees him and says, "I heard that you can interpret dreams." Joseph's answer is beautiful. Does not seek glory for you. Don't try to impress. He just says, "This is not in me." God will give Pharaoh's favorable answer. Pharaoh's heart opens, and he tells his dreams. With attention and calm, Joseph listens, in silence, with discernment, and then it speaks. Your voice is firm, but serene. There is no hurry or hesitation. The two dreams are one. God has revealed Pharaoh what to come. There will be 7 years of great abundance throughout Egypt, and then 7 years of hunger will come, so severe that all abundance will be forgotten. The dream has repeated itself because it is something established by God, and he hurries to fulfill it. But Joseph goes beyond interpretation. He proposes a plan. Advice. Choose a wise man to manage resources during the years of abundance. Store wheat, prepare the people, and so, when hunger comes, there will be provision. The palace dives in silence. Pharaoh looks around. None of his men seem to have the wisdom of that young Hebrew. None of them speak with such clarity, such faith, such true. And then, he says, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" And there, before all, Joseph is exalted. "Since God made you know all this, there is no one as wise and understood as you. You will be upon my house, and by your word, all my people will be ruled. Only on the throne will I be bigger than you." Imagine the weight of these words falling on Joseph's shoulders. He who was thrown into the well, the one who was sold as a slave, the one who was forgotten in prison, now dresses in thin clothes, receives the ring of authority, gets a new name, and he leaves the streets of Egypt in a carriage, with the people shouting, "Kneel." But in Joseph's heart, there was no pride, there was gratitude. He knew that everything came from God, and he remained faithful to the mission. During the 7 years of abundance, Jose worked with due diligence, gathered food in barns, organized the land resources, and when hunger arrived, as he had predicted, Egypt was prepared. People everywhere came to Egypt in search of groceries, and among these people, Joseph's brothers also came. They arrived without knowing, did not recognize the governor. They did not imagine that this man dressed in Egyptian ornaments was the same as they had released in well years earlier. But Joseph recognized them. He saw them and felt his heart shudder. They bowed before him, just as in the dream of his youth. God's view was fulfilling itself. But Joseph did not prove immediately. He wanted to test his hearts. I wanted to see if they were still the same. I wanted to know if they had changed, if there was regret. He asked questions, hid his cry, hurried out not to show his pain. Finally, he could no longer contain himself. He had all the Egyptians out of the room, and, alone with the brothers, raised his voice. The tears fell in abundance. The heart, once wounded, now pulsed mercy. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold to Egypt." They were in shock. Fear paralyzed them. But Joseph soon comforted them. "Now, therefore, you do not sad you. You do not get angry against yourselves for being sold to me. For to preserve life, God sent me ahead of you. Forgiveness was shed like a river. Grace took the place of revenge. Love has overcome the pain." This is the beauty of Joseph's story. God transforms evil into good, transforms the wound into mission, transforms forgetting into exaltation. And all this, in the right time. The sound of Joseph's cry echoed through the empty hall. Tears that had been damned for years, now they were free. He cried for everything. For the time lost, the nights in the well, for the unfair arrest, the longing for his father. He also cried for the reunion. His brothers were before him, no more as aggressors, but as transformed men, humble, broken. During the tests Joseph proposed to them, from the return of money in the wheat bags, to the requirement that they brought Benjamin, he observed something precious. Their hearts had changed. There was fear, there was brotherly care, there was regret. And that is why Joseph did not hesitate to forgive. Not only did he receive them back, he welcomed them. He embraced their pain. He wiped the tears of the past with the scarf of mercy. You have come to evil against me, but God has made it well, to do as you see this day, to keep a lot of people alive. Words like these do not spring from wounded hearts. They spring from God-healed hearts. Joseph had understood that his story was part of something larger. Each pain has made a sense. Each fall was a step. And now, at the top of his mission, he looked back without grudge, only with peace. Joseph then sends his brothers back to Canaan. Give them cars, provisions, gifts. But the biggest gift was the news. Is my father still alive? Bring him here. In Canaan, Jacob could barely believe. When he heard that his son was alive, his heart almost stopped. But seeing the cars and the gifts sent, his soul warmed. And then he said, my son Joseph still lives. I will go and see him before I die. The trip was long, but now it was full of hope. Jacob left with his family, his servants, his flocks. And in every step of the way, the old patriarch carried with him not only joy, but the certainty that God is faithful, even when time seems too long. As they approached Egypt, Joseph prepared his carriage, and upon seeing the father at a distance, I did not contain the emotions. He ran to meet him, launched herself around the neck of old Jacob and cried, longly. Imagine this scene now. An elderly father, with his eyes tired of waiting, hugging his son, who thought he was dead, and the son, now a man of authority, bending before the father with the humility of a boy. They stayed there, hugged for long minutes. No word was said, because when the soul is, silence is eloquent. After this reunion, Joseph took the whole family to dwell in Gozan, a fertile region, separated from the Egyptian lands, where they could live in peace. There, Jacob and his children, his daughters-in-law, and grandchildren, began to inhabit. The number of people in the house of Israel was 70 in all. Jose took care of them with dedication, supplied all your needs. He protected them from hunger, which still plagued the earth. The same brother who had been rejected now extended his arms with generosity, because the true greatness is serving. Jacob lived 17 years in Egypt, and when his time came to an end, he called Joseph. He asked him not to be buried in the land of the pharaohs. He wanted to rest alongside his parents in the land of the promise, and Joseph promised that he would do so. Jacob also blessed his children, and the most special blessing was given to Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, as if they were their own children. He crossed his hands and placed his right hand on Ephraim, the youngest, contrary to the natural order. But there again, God showed that his choice does not follow human logic. Jacob blessed, prophesied, and then expired, resting in peace. Joseph cried for his father. He cried like who loses a piece of the soul. He sent him, embalmed him, as usual in Egypt, and then left with a great procession to the land of Canaan to bury him in Machpelah, next to Abraham, Isaac, and Sarah. After Jacob's death, Joseph's brothers feared that he will now take place. They thought forgiveness had been just because of the father, and they came to him, prostrated, saying, "Here are us by your servants." But Joseph, once again, answered with grace, "Don't you fear. Am I perhaps in God's place?" His words were like balm, soft, deep. And once again, he reaffirmed, "You thought evil against me, but God has made it good, to preserve lives." He comforted them. He spoke tenderly, promised to take care of them and their children, and so did it, until the end of your days. Jose lived until 110 years. He saw the children of his children, lived wisely. He loved in depth, and before he died, he left a promise. God will surely visit you, and shall make you climb from this earth to the earth who has swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He asked his bones to be taken out of Egypt when that happened, because even being a prince in Egypt, Joseph's heart belonged to Canaan, belonged to the promises of God, belonged to heaven. And so, Joseph slept. His body rested in Egypt. But your legacy, this one never slept. He teaches us that faithfulness to God is never in vain, that dreams that come from heaven can cross deserts, arrests, betrayals, and forgetfulness. And yet, they are fulfilled, because God is faithful. And with him, even the deepest valleys become ways of glory. Close your eyes for a moment, breathe deeply, feel the air entering calmly, renewing your mind. And imagine, if Joseph were today, walking through us, what would he say? Maybe I said you, wait for it, ... To be forgotten, hurt, ... That God's silence can be disconcerting, ... But above all, he would say, it is worth trusting. Joseph is a mirror of our own journeys, because all of us, at some point in life, go through deserts. We were betrayed, rejected, humiliated, forgotten. Dreams that seemed promising became distant memories. Words we received in prayer seemed not to be fulfilled. And then the doubt whispers, did God forget me? But Joseph's story answers us with tenderness and truth. God never forgets. You may be in a waiting time, like Joseph in the well, as Joseph in prison, a time when everything seems standing still, when the promises are covered with dust, the days are repeated, the nights are long, the thoughts are heavy, and the heart doesn't seem to take it anymore. But even there, God is with you. God's presence does not depend on the place we are in. He was with Joseph in the palace, but I was also with him in jail. It was in the field of Canaan, but also in the oppressive heat of Egypt, because God is not limited to geographies. He dwells in faithful hearts. You may have been wronged. People you loved turned their backs. Hard words were released against you, and all that was left was the silence. Joseph also lived this, but instead of hardening his heart, he kept him open, continued to serve, continued to trust. He kept waiting, even when there was no sign of change. And when the door opened, it was at once, fast, unexpected, transformative. This is the style of God. It allows the wait to forge character, allows a rest to activate gifts, allows silence to teach us to listen. And when the time comes, he lifts us before everyone's eyes and honor us. You may be going through a lost station, lost someone, lost something, lost the course. But Joseph's story reminds us that God can restore everything, not just what was taken, but even what we thought impossible. Joseph lost his youth away from his family, lost his tunic, lost his freedom, but he received something greater, a story of redemption, glory, and eternal legacy. You also have a legacy, even if no one looks yet, even if it sounds small, even if everything is quiet. God is working within you. The arrest you face now, it may be the womb of your purpose. Silence. It can be the gestation of a new time. Do not despair. There is a verse that says, it humiliates you, therefore, under the powerful hand of God, that in time, exalt you in time. 1 Peter 5:06. In time. It is not in our time. It is not in the time of the world. It is in His time, a perfect time. A time you know exactly when you open your doors, move your hearts, rotate the invisible gears of providence. And when this time comes, nothing can stop it. But in the meantime, what to do? Do it as Joseph. Keep serving, keep trusting, keep dreaming, even without tunic, even without friends, even without guarantees. Continue, because faithfulness in difficult times is what prepares us for the time of honor. And remember, Joseph was faithful when no one was looking. It was fair when there was no applause. It was righteous when this only brought him damage. But that's exactly what qualified it. God does not seek perfection. He seeks hearts surrendered. Hearts that say, Lord, I don't understand, ... but I trust. Hearts that remain clean, even when everything around is dirty. Have you been charging wounds? Deliver them now. Have you questioned the future? Rest now. Do you feel afraid of being forgotten? Remember, God does not forget your children. He didn't forget Joseph, didn't forget Jacob, didn't forget you. Everything that has been planted with faith will be harvested with joy. Everything that has been lost will be restored with abundance. Everything that was broken will be rebuilt with beauty. Joseph's story is not just an old narrative. She is a spiritual portrait a loving reminder, a living promise. And this promise echoes now as you take a deep breath, as your soul rests. Even sleeping, God takes care of you. Even silent, He works. Even invisible, He acts. Its story is still being written, and in the end, it will be beautiful. Now, gently, close your eyes. Feel the weight of your body, kindly accommodating where you are. Let your shoulders relax. Let your forehead unrates. May your heart slow down. You have come here. The day ended, and God remains with you, while your breathing becomes lighter. Allow yourself to imagine. Calmly visualize the image of a field at dusk. The sky is golden. The wind blows between the ears of wheat, which dance as if they praised in silence. On the horizon there is a light tunic figure, looking at the sky with eyes of hope. It's Joseph. He is standing, but in peace. Past the well, past the prison, passed through betrayal. And yet, it's up, because I didn't walk alone. And just like him, you're not alone either. While inspiring slowly, say within you, God is with me. And by expiring with sweetness, repeat, I will lack nothing. Feel this truth to lodge gently on your chest, as a security blanket, like a father's hand on his forehead, like the relief of those who no longer need to fight with their own strength. Allow the Spirit of God to now involve your thoughts. Perhaps today was a day of tiredness, frustrations, charges. You may have remembered losses, forgotten dreams, words that hurt. But now, all this can be delivered, as those who place a heavy load at the feet of an altar. Say in your soul, Lord, take everything that weighs, everything that hurts, everything that drives me away from your peace. Let God take control. He does not reject broken hearts. He does not turn his face to those who cry out in silence. He doesn't ignore tears. Every sigh of you, he hears. Each hidden request. He already knows. You are safe. You are supported. You are loved. Now, let's pray together. Simply, deep. Like a child who speaks to a father who loves hearing his voice. Pray with me. ... Holy Father, tonight, I rest in you. Just as you were with Joseph everywhere in the well, the house of Potiphar in prison, and the throne, I believe you are also with me here. I don't need to understand everything. I just need to trust. Therefore, I give you my heart, my doubts, my fears, my loose thoughts. I deliver everything. Lord, calm my soul. If there is agitation in me, blow with your spirit and bring bonanza. If there are hidden wounds, touch your hand in healing. If there is discouragement, renew my hope. You are the God who transforms evil into good, the God who raises from dust. What an honor who has been humiliated, that keeps promises, even when everyone forgets. Thank you, Lord, for not abandoning me. Thank you for taking care of me, even when I don't even notice. Tonight, I put myself under your shelter. I want to sleep in peace. I want to dream about you. I want to wake up tomorrow with the certainty that I'm in your hands. Now, take a deep breath once more. Feel this moment as a dive in the presence of God. Nothing needs to be resolved now. Nothing needs to be understood now. Everything can be delivered now. Let God be God. He knows the ways. He sees the details. He is already in your tomorrow, preparing what you haven't even imagined yet. Your story is still being written, and her author is faithful. As you fall asleep, the sky remains in motion. Angels continue to keep you. The word remains alive inside you. You are a beloved child. You are careful. You are part of God's eternal plans. Now, sleep. Allow your mind to turn off slowly, that the body surrenders to rest. May the heart warm up with the certainty of the divine presence. You are under the wings of the Most High. Your soul can rest, because the pastor keeps watching.
E antes que o sono chegue por completo, ouça estas últimas palavras. Você é valioso para Deus. Você não foi esquecido. Você será honrado no tempo certo. Tudo aquilo que Deus começou em você, Ele mesmo completará. Feche os olhos e descanse sob a proteção do Altíssimo.